Hey everyone, Not So Slim Jim. I know the title's a little deceiving. Most people don't usually put the phrase 50 BMG rifle and budget in the same sentence. So kind of hear me out on this. And first, I have to apologize. Normally when I speak about guns when I'm not at the range, I'm at my bench. But unfortunately, this doesn't fit on my bench. So I kind of had to throw together something for my dining room table to make this somewhat presentable for everyone. So once again, apologies, but I'm doing the best I can for a guy who makes $30 a month on YouTube ad revenue. So what is it when we're talking about a 50 BMG? Now obviously, the bullets are expensive. They can be done for less expensive if you learn to reload, which I already do. I bought the reloading press, and you know, if you buy mil spec or military leftover ammo and you get a primers on a good deal and you get pulled rounds, I mean the powder's still a little expensive, but it's not crazy. It's about the same price as standard powders. You just got to use 4 times as much of it. But it can be shot on a somewhat budget if you know what you're doing. Now there are a list of host of what I would call budget-friendly 50 BMG rifles. I don't know how accurate these prices are because I didn't check all of them, but they're approximate from what I got from a list. But the most inexpensive one that we have nowadays is obviously the RN50 from Serbu. Everyone has one of these, well, at least all the cool kids on YouTube have at least one. Obviously, Kentucky Ballistics had an unfortunate accident with his, but a lot of people can afford them because they're starting off around $1,600 for one. You know, next you can move up to the Safety Harbor, the Shit Hit the Fan 50 for about $2 grand. From that, if you can find one, you can get a Noreen URL for about $2,700 or so. Then you move up to this guy, which I like to call kind of, for my taste, the base level for 50 BMG rifles, because this is an actual bolt action where you can remove the round, put a new round in without having to unscrew it and do dumb stuff. And this is actually a decent rifle. This has a lot of beef to it. You know, from here forward, you would kind of think it's, you know, like you get the, you know, the M2 feel, and from here back you get the mullet budget feeling. But hey, you get what you can afford, you know. And from that point you move on to the next nearest one, which is a very nice one if you can afford it, the Armorlight AR-50. But those guys are creeping around $4,500 to $5,000. So that's definitely, I think, where we're getting into the mid-tier of 50 BMG rifles, at least when it comes to budget-wise. There's ones that are obviously you know, you got the Lynx out there for like $20-some thousand, and the Crisp with the carbon fiber barrel and all that stuff, but I'm not that hoity-toity. So obviously I went with the BFG 50. Bolt action, single shot, but you can still shoot pretty quick if you get used to it. And this one I've only done a couple little things to, which we're going to go over or go over in future videos. Let's go ahead and do this Flanny Daddy style and go nut to butt, starting off with the rather large 4-port brake on it. Now mine, I went ahead and laser engraved Mark Serbu's face on it because, you know what? I like trolling people, and what better than the maker of the rifle. Now this brake is standard size for 50 cal, so if you ever want to swap it out to another size one, for whatever reason you think you might need something to clean your sinuses out better, it is possible. But, gosh darn it. And then we can move on to the rather beefy barrel, which, I don't know, I spent quite a few years in the military working with the M2 machine guns, and I would say this is pretty close to the profile. It's a little bit thinner at the very end by the brake, but the remainder of the barrel is either the same size or pretty darn close to the M2 machine gun barrel. In fact, the vast majority of the weight of this rifle is in fact the barrel itself. Then we can flip her over and see this nice beefy size bipod that comes with it, which is an all-metal construction. Where that solidly clips into place. The attachment point is a steel pigtail rail that is TIG welded to the bottom. Pretty good welds too. Mark, you're doing better. So if you ever want to swap this out to, I don't know, put it on a def stick. I don't know how well a def stick would hold it, but Lord knows if you want to try, or a helicopter or a tank or whatever you want to throw this guy onto, a couple of Allen bolts on the side, and this guy can slop off, and you can put it on whatever mounting solution you feel like. All right, let's go ahead and move to the midsection. All right, I had to reshoot this section because my camera took a crap and the audio I sounded like gargling garbage. So we have the midsection of the rifle with the welded steel riser that goes to the aluminum Picatinny rail. It comes with a spare one, so if you ever jack this up, there's one that already comes with it, held on by 4 Allen head bolts with nuts on the bottom, so it's relatively easy to swap out. Like I said, this cheek riser, this is an aftermarket thing I put on, so don't worry about that. You have the absolute massive bolt, the AR style trigger group, which I'll go over here in a moment. Then for disassembly, it's actually really quite easy, which is another reason I really like this rifle, because it uses 2 Allen head screws, one 5/32 for the hinge butt plate, and one 1/8 that when you move the bolt all the way backwards, you have accessibility to take that machine head screw with the 1/8 head Allen out. Just make sure before you do that you mark the bottom of your bolt handle, which comes out, because it only goes in one way because it has to interact with the cutouts for the bolt. But of course, YouTube won't let me show this part, so let me go ahead, take these out, and we'll come right back in a moment. All right, so after we remove the 5/32 bolt from the butt plate, it hinges out. Then remove the 1/8 inch machine screw that pulls out the bolt handle. Now, before you remove this, make sure to mark which side's facing down, because there are different cuts on this that needs to go in a very specific way, otherwise the bolt locks up, so make sure to do that. Then you can push, that big honker out, which, if you haven't seen before, is a very, very large bolt head. With a very large bolt behind it, which is nice. They put blowout holes, so if for some reason you do get blow by, you do have issues inside the bolt will blow outwards versus back in your neck, like Scott from Kentucky Ballistics found out. So this is a good safety feature on it. The next part you can take apart is the fire control group, which is just like an AR-15, but instead of pushing from left to right, you push from right to left. But of course, from YouTube standards, I can't show the disassembly of a firearm. So let's go ahead and pause for a second. All right, now that we obligatory took a pause to show something that was super simple, this is the fire control group. It is very similar to an AR-15, or if anyone who's ever owned a Strybog or any of the AR type fire control group lowers, you'll kind of understand. The only difference, as I said, is it uses what looks to be 2 rear takedown pins that go from right to left. The front one goes the same as you would on an AR, but it's on the opposite ear. The rear has a takedown with the detent that goes in from the top. You can use a lot of parts from the AR-15 platform on this. The hammer is not one of them. I would recommend also keeping the hammer spring, which seems to be a heavier duty version for the larger 50 BMG primers, but you can change out the actual trigger spring, the safety, which I already have, which I'll be covering in the next video, and the grip. Now the grip, if you try to put a ducktail grip on here, they don't work out of the box. I had to do some pretty big modifications on the inside to get this Mod 1 to fit. So I'd recommend going with a standard straight cut one if you are going to do it, but it can be done. I'm also a lefty, that's why I have the ambi trigger, which is a lot easier. You can still run 45-degree safeties on here if you want to. I personally, because it's a single shot And if I accidentally have a negligent discharge, it's a little bit more. I'm keeping the full 90 degree with a full size or a full power spring on here just so I don't have any problems. But it is easy to work on. I mean, literally to disassemble this entire rifle is a machine screw, one screw, and two takedown pins, and that's pretty much it. You can take the bolt down further if need be, but I don't really see it other than messing around with the extractor claw and the extractor pin. That's really the only parts to the bolt. That's pretty much all you ever need to do, unless you're messing around with putting a different brake on it or a different optics rail, or like I said, the bipod if you want to mount this on your tank, or helicopter if you're a rich guy. So this is why I went over this one. Like I said, it's easy to maintain. It's from a company that you can get parts from. Its price point is not bad for a 50 BMG. And it's going to be good. So in the upcoming videos, we're going to go over the trigger housing more in detail. Then we're going to go over, you're going to laugh at this one, budget 50 BMG optics. Yeah, another kind of one that doesn't make any sense. Then we're going to do a custom case build for it because a lot of people have asked about my cases and stuff, so we're going to do one for this guy. And then we're finally going to go to the range. The reason why I'm doing so many videos is because, one, I need to take some time to upgrade the range I shoot at because it is not suited for shooting this caliber, and I don't want to shoot a cow on the farm that's behind us by like 10 miles by accident. Yep, and it gives me some time to make some content until I can get out to the range next. So as usual, any questions, comments, or concerns, leave them down in the comment section for me.